Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. It's that time of the year. College football is start. Well, there's a couple games back in week 0. They're actually pretty entertaining, but now we got week 1 all starting this weekend. And last week I went over my college football season predictions, and now I'm going to do what I do last year. And for those of you who don't know, what I did last year was for each week of the college football season, I went over my top 10 games that I like or that I think is intriguing, for each week, and I go over my analysis and my predictions for them. So let's get started with the top 10 matchup and the best matchup of the week with 5 LSU versus 8 Florida State in Orlando. LSU is a 2.5 point favorite here. A big Sunday night matchup. Because it's a week 1, because a lot of teams in week 1 like to schedule those easy Panera Bread State, cupcake type of wins. So I appreciate when a team schedules hard in week 1, and now we have a top 10 matchup because of it. And it's one that, and it should be an epic game because last year it was an epic game that came down right to the wire. Um, Go watch the highlights if you don't remember that game last year. I think the loser of this game is essentially eliminated from the playoffs already because I doubt either can run the table in their prospective conferences, especially with LSU's case since they're in the gauntlet of the SEC. The matchup I'm going to pay attention to the most is LSU's offense versus Florida State's defense. Florida State's defense last season was not that good at all. And if they can't get stops, I think LSU may be able to just outscore them and get the win in Orlando. So I have LSU winning and covering 35-31. Next best game, you got 21 North Carolina versus South Carolina. North Carolina's 2.5 point favorite. This game's a neutral site in Charlotte on Saturday night, primetime. College game day will be there. This is a game where defense will be very optional, as both offenses are explosive and led by quarterbacks who will be drafted in the NFL next season. So this comes down to which defense do you trust more? And in this case, I'm going to take South Carolina's defense. North Carolina's defense last year was just so atrocious, and I don't think that will improve much unless I'm proven otherwise. So my gut feeling is South Carolina gets the big win in a shootout, building off their momentum for how they finished off last season, win like 3 of the last 4, and they will now drop into the top 25 next week because of being North Carolina, and North Carolina will drop out. Now I have this. I guess for my score, I have this being 45-42. Like I said, it should be very high scoring shootout. Okay, number 3, you got a Thursday night primetime matchup between Florida and 14 Utah, with Utah being a 4-point favorite. This was a great game last season. The question is, can Florida get the upset again despite replacing a lot of starters from last season, including a quarterback with Anthony Richardson being in the NFL? To me, it depends on this whole game depends on Utah quarterback Cam Rising's health. If he is not 100% from the offseason, where he had a knee surgery in the Rose Bowl, if he's still not 100%, or if he even misses the game, even though their backup has some experience starting, then I think Florida will get a big win on the road. If Cam Rising's healthy enough and ready to go enough, then I'll take the Utes at home. At this point, I'm going to assume Rising will either be held out or be limited, which is why the line spread for this game keeps on going down by the day. So I do think that therefore the Gators will win this game since I don't trust Rising's health for this matchup. I have Florida winning 23-20. Number 4, you got 9 Clemson versus Duke. Clemson at 13-point favorite. This is the Monday night game. You may wonder why I have this game ranked so high. Duke returns one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, Riley Leonard, and they return a lot of starters from a 9-win team last season, which is huge for Duke football. Clemson is breaking in some new starters, especially on the D-line, and it's week 1 on the road. So it wouldn't shock me if Clemson couldn't pull away in this game, and it goes down to the wire. I do think the Clemson Tigers will ultimately survive, but they better play sharp in week 1 if they want to avoid an early season upset. So I have Clemson winning 28-24. Number 5, you got Colorado versus 18 TCU. TCU, a 20.5-point favorite here. It's a big new Fox game. Watching Deion Sanders take on the runner-ups from last season alone makes this must-see TV. Colorado, I think, will be way more competitive than they were last season. They're not going to get blown out by 30 points every game. I do believe that. But on the other hand, I do think Colorado's not going to all of a sudden make a bowl game this year and be awesome. I do think, with the amount of roster overhaul that happened this offseason, I do feel like there will be some growing pains, some ups and downs. While TCU has plenty of stars they have to replace, I do think they will still be there's still enough of a gap here to where this could potentially be a blowout type of game. Hopefully not though, because I'd like for this to be a close, entertaining game. But I have TCU winning 42-24. So next we got Nebraska versus Minnesota as a 7-point favorite. This is Thursday night primetime game on Fox. This matchup is not sexy on paper by any means, but this could be a really good game in week 1. Matt Rule's taking over at Nebraska, so a lot of people want to see what this team looks like, especially in a tough road game environment. Minnesota has a lot of stars to replace on offense as well. Since Nebraska has more question marks though, I think the Gophers will win this game, and I do think for both of these teams, they need to win this game just to be bowl eligible based off of how I think their season's going to go. I do think this would be close though, since Minnesota is not known for lining up scoreboards. So while Minnesota wins, I do think Nebraska could cover here, and I have Minnesota winning 17-16. 7, you got West Virginia versus 7 Penn State, who's a 28-point favorite here, primetime scene game. Penn State has the biggest expectations they've had in a while. They got an elite running back tandem and a good offensive line. They also feel like with Drew Allers, they have a quarterback who could finally just be more than the game manager. That's why I think Penn State could potentially be sneaking, going to the playoffs. West Virginia, on the other hand, has some questions on defense, and we really don't know who they have at quarterback and can that quarterback produce. So I think maybe this could be close in the first half, but Penn State at night as a top 10 team at home with all the momentum is going to be hard to beat, and I think they'll pull away in the second half. So I have Penn State winning 31-10. 8, you got Louisville versus Georgia Tech. Louisville's an 8-point favorite here. It's a primetime Friday night game. A battle of conference foes in week 1 who both break in new coaches and new quarterbacks. This is already an important game in week 1, not just for conference implications, but I think the loser of this game could miss a bowl game, especially if it's the Yellow Jackets, since they have a hard non-conference schedule. One thing I do know in this game is that under new head coach Brent Key, who was the interim coach last year, this team will play hard and play good defense. Under Jeff Brom, Louisville is going to look explosive on offense, and specifically in the passing game. So which one wins out? Well, when in doubt, go offense. So I have Louisville getting a big win on the road here. I have them winning 23-21. 9, you got UTSA versus Houston. UTSA 2-point favorite on the road. 7 p.m. game on FS1. This is a very, very underrated game in week 1. Last year, these two teams played and went into triple overtime. And Houston, as a new member in the Big 12, needs all the wins they can get, while UTSA is looking to be the best Group of 5 team for this season and make a New Year's 6 bowl game. Wins like this will look very good on that resume. Because like last year, for example, Tulane beat Kansas State, and therefore Tulane was ranked the highest G5 team. They got to go to New Year's 6 bowl game and get an upset over USC. The fact that this game is at Houston makes this definitely tougher to pick. But unlike the Cougars, the Roadrunners don't have any quarterback questions, and they definitely have the better defense. So I think Houston is going to have a little of a rude awakening here to start their season as a Power 5 team as UTSA comes in and gets the win on the road. I have them winning 34-31. And then last but not least, you can go a couple different games here, or a couple underrated games I like for example, Utah State and Iowa, especially since Iowa's new quarterback from Michigan came back there as questionable. Like, that would be a very interesting game since Iowa typically doesn't have that good of an offense. So Utah State can make it close. Virginia, Tennessee, that's probably going to be a blowout, but maybe it's close. South Alabama and Tulane, those are arguably the top 6 G5 teams. Like, that would be interesting. But for here, I'm going to go Boise State versus number 10 Washington. Washington being a 14-point favorite here. So, afternoon game on ABC. I like the Washington offense, and I think they can win the Pac-12. However, just because they can win the Pac-12 doesn't mean they can take things easy in this game. Boise State historically upsets a ton of Power 5 teams, and Washington is not careful in this game. It could be too close to comfort. I think in the fourth quarter, the Huskies finally gain a little lead to where they can cover the spread and get the win, though. I have Washington winning 38-20. Again, thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel to learn about me. Next week, I'll go over my week 2 predictions, and I'll also be going over my NFL season predictions and NFL week 1 predictions. So a lot of podcasts to come out next week for me. But thank you very much, and y'all have a wonderful first weekend of college football.